After that night, things ratcheted up another notch. David didn't bother hiding his impatience anymore. He moved like a man who expected the world to rearrange itself for him. And I realized the only way to survive was to stop reacting and start dictating. My lawyer recommended an injunction to pause any sale while we sorted equity claims, so I filed for it. That bought me time, at least on paper, but it didn't stop the harassment. They found ways around court orders, realtors showing up with serious buyers, contractors measuring the foundation in ways that left me with the feeling they were measuring my life. I started sleeping in the living room with the TV on, just for company. Neighbors who once waved politely began to avert their eyes when I passed. Word travels fast in a small town. Gossip stacked on gossip like dried wood waiting for a spark. I'd never realized how isolating it could be to have your brother as your antagonist. He'd set the narrative. I was the obstinate sibling refusing a fair settlement. He was the reasonable one trying to liquidate an illiquid asset. Even people who knew us both took his part because he'd learned to perform confidence better than I ever wanted to. But there were cracks, little solidarities that kept me from spiraling. Mrs. Henderson brought over a casserole one night and left a note. "You're not alone." Old Mr. Alvarez, who'd lent Dad tools for years, stopped by with a stack of invoices he'd found in his garage. Receipts for lumber and shingles I'd paid for after the last windstorm. It was small, but it mattered. My lawyer used those receipts to bolster the claim that I'd put substantial labor and money into maintaining the property, which translated into equity rather than mere occupancy. We started compiling a ledger of everything I'd done in the past decade: taxes paid, utilities, roof repairs, furnace replacement, the new well pump when it failed in winter, the time I repainted the porch by hand after a hailstorm. Each line was an act of love and also a legal anchor, a way to prove that this house was more than a shared asset to me. It was my life. I stayed up nights cross-referencing bank statements, saving emails, printing everything until my fingers cramped. Meanwhile, David escalated differently. He filed counterclaims alleging I'd been living there rent-free while secretly diverting assets. Someone had placed a forged bank statement among his filings that suggested I owned accounts I'd never seen. It was a nasty move, and it worked. Enough to keep the judge uneasy and to scare off a local lender I'd approached for a modest loan. I felt cornered, not because the law was against me, but because the system was manipulable if you had the will and the money to twist it. I started to question every interaction. Was that knock of the door genuine? Did the contractor who complimented the crown